Right now at 6, a middle school teacher behind bars, accused of luring an underage girl online.
This was incredibly overt. This is exactly what I intend to do once we meet up.
And beefing up the police presence in Portland's Oldtown.
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough few years for the neighborhood.
Why some say more officers is not the solution. Plus,
we don't want survivors to have to choose between homelessness or staying with an abusive partner.
The funding boost to help survivors escape abusive situations.
Oh, yes.
And the mother of all relay races off and running, the cause that's fueling thousands of runners on their journey from Mount Hood to the Oregon coast. And thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Gordon in for David and Christine. Today, Portland police, along with federal agents, arrested a Portland middle school teacher for allegedly luring a minor. He was caught in an undercover investigation where police pretended to be a 13-year-old girl. Investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi is in the newsroom with more on the investigation. Kyle.
38-year-old Craig Douglas Myers is a math teacher at Hosford Middle School in Southeast Portland. He's facing a single felony count of luring a minor. Police and federal agents raided Douglas Myers' home in Northeast Portland early this morning. He was taken into custody and is being held at the Multnomah County Jail. The arrest comes after a month-long investigation. In July, investigators in Northern California alerted Portland police about an undercover chat operation. A detective posing as a 13-year-old girl exchanged messages with a Portland man using an encrypted app called Wire. The conversations initiated by the Portland man were sexual in nature, according to police, and involved discussions about how they'd meet. Police were eventually able to identify the suspect as a middle school teacher.
This suspect that we arrested today teaches 13-year-olds on a regular basis. We don't know that they have done anything illegal or committed any offense with any of them. However, it's incredibly concerning for us that he was choosing to surround himself with the very people that he was seeking out to have a sexual relationship with.
Because of his brazen conversations with someone he thought was a child and his job as a teacher, police are concerned that Douglas Myers may have victimized children in the past. They're urging anyone with information to contact police. Portland Public Schools said Douglas Myers is on paid leave, adding there's no information the district is aware of that PPS students were impacted. According to police, after his arrest, Douglas Myers told detectives, "I haven't done anything wrong." He'll be arraigned on Monday.
Kyle, thank you very much. Well, in your headlines tonight, the man caught on camera abusing a dog 3 weeks ago was indicted by a grand jury today on multiple counts of aggravated animal abuse. 25-year-old Isaac Justum was captured on security cameras at a Northeast Portland apartment building August 2nd. He's accused of hitting and kicking the dog, among other things. With help from the public, police identified Justum and arrested him last Saturday. Now, the dog in this case is still missing. PETA is now offering an up to $5,000 reward for information leading to its location. Well, Oregon and Washington are joining the U.S. Justice Department in suing a company they accuse of using artificial intelligence to drive up rental prices. Today, the U.S. attorney announced the antitrust filing against the real estate software company RealPage. The suit alleges RealPage's algorithm lets landlords align their prices to avoid competition.
When companies, and in this case landlords, use a software tool to facilitate cooperation with respect to rents, they violate the antitrust laws. They make rents higher than they would otherwise be, and they prevent rents from going down.
Oregon's Attorney General identified 2 local neighborhoods, Aloha West Beaverton and Central Portland, where more than 30% of landlords are using RealPage technology. In a statement, RealPage said the Justice Department's claims are devoid of merit and the technology has been used responsibly for years. Well, TriMet says 10 new stations on the Max Red Line will open next week. It's part of TriMet's Better Red project, which expanded the line west into Hillsborough. Construction began back in 2021. Now people can get from the airport to Hillsborough without switching trains. The extension officially launches on Wednesday, with some trains running this Sunday. And take a look at this. Mount Bachelor and Bend had to break out the snow shovels today after reporting its first snowfall of the season. The cool, wet weather pattern dropped a dusting of snow down to the mid-mountain area. That's about 7,500 feet of elevation. Mountain bike operations were put on hold while workers cleared the decks around the lifts there. However, it's not expected to stick around. Things will be warming up next week in time for the Red Line Rally downhill racing event. Well, now at 6, more police are coming to Portland's Oldtown neighborhood. It is an we're going to weather first.
We're gonna talk some weather real quick, Tim, and then we'll get right to that story about Portland police. We're gonna start here at Timberline Lodge because we were talking about Mount Bachelor there. You know, I had to talk to Rod really quick because he has more historical knowledge than I do. He says, you know, it's not unheard of to see this kind of snow in August, but we do not see that every year. Now, interestingly enough, we could see just a few of those snowflakes at Timberline tonight when we see that snow level drop down to 6,000 feet. So we'll see that 32 degrees, that freezing temperature happen at Timberline overnight tonight. Now, we're not done with the rain. Here's our radar from the last couple of hours, and you'll also notice just a few lightning bolts over there, especially over the Cascades, and then when you talk east into Madras as well. So unlikely that we'll see these thunderstorms right here in the metro area, but if you're in Salem, so you're further south in the valley, if you're in the Cascades, if you're in eastern Oregon, you could definitely see some of those thunderstorms as we head into tomorrow. This storm starting to decrease. We're going to see less of this rain here as we head into the next day or so, but those cool temperatures staying with us. We'll talk about that 7-day forecast coming up.
All right, Ashley, glad we got you in there. Thanks a lot. And now at 6, more police are coming to Portland's Oldtown neighborhood. It is an effort to address livability and security concerns there. Blair Best visited the area today, and a warning, this story does include imagery of public drug use.
Ask anyone. Portland's Oldtown neighborhood is facing a crisis.
There's obviously a lot of suffering here.
Yeah, it's definitely been a tough few years for the neighborhood.
And that's not lost on Portland police. Starting next month, the Bureau will set up a mobile office by Northwest 3rd and Davis and leave a parked police vehicle near the Chinese Garden, all part of Mayor Ted Wheeler's new plan to increase safety and livability in Oldtown.
I think it's great. You know, we're struggling down here.
Jesse Burke runs the Society Hotel across the street from the planned mobile police unit.
There are a lot of things that need to happen down here. One of them is that we need a sense that laws are enforced.
Others aren't so sure more officers are the answer.
I think the cops are kind of the wrong tool to throw at the problem.
You know, there's a lot of people struggling and suffering, and I wish that the solutions could just be continuing to invest in their well-being and housing.
Lots of people are living on the street and are addicted to drugs.
A block away, a meth pipe is passed down this line of people.
The police are already here, and they're not really doing anything to help. There aren't any resources or anything. They're just getting people in trouble.
That's her take. Yet for months, officers have increased walking beats in the area, pairing with outreach workers to help people like her addicted on the streets.
All right, so we're about a block away from where that mobile police unit will be here off Northwest 3rd and Burnside. And this is where Portland police responded to a stabbing around 9:30 Thursday night. One person was injured and taken to the hospital. Just another example of safety concerns in Oldtown.
I think it's horrifying, and I'm not surprised at all.
Because she's been hurt on the streets before.
Because I've been abused sexually so bad, and that is no fun for anybody.
And this man tells us he was shot last month, not far from where he's sitting now.
I did. So, me and my girlfriend, we still suffer over my wounds.
I'd like to see more money spent on providing housing and healthcare and things that actually help people's lives.
Now, many in the Oldtown community point to the addiction crisis as the underlying issue here. And this increased police presence comes at the same time that possession of drugs will be a crime again in Oregon. Police will start enforcing that September 1st. Meanwhile, the city will continue to meet with the Oldtown community about twice a month to talk safety. Back to you.
Blair, thanks a lot. Also, domestic violence survivors will now be able to get more money to help them get out of harm's way. Celine Stevens is here now with more about this one-time investment of state funding and what it means for people. Celine?
Tim, it's a move made by the state's Department of Human Services after they received that investment from the Oregon legislature. The program has not seen an increase in over 20 years, but thanks to pressure from advocates, some survivors could now receive up to $3,200 in aid.
because there hasn't been an increase in 26 years, the amount of money that folks were receiving was just not enough.
Some victims of domestic violence will now receive up to $3,200 to assist with safety-related needs as they attempt a safe new life. It's a part of the Temporary Assistance for Domestic Violence Survivors program to help families and pregnant women to escape from abuse with temporary financial support.
We were thrilled. We had been advocating for a while for this. Survivors have had to use $1,200 to escape domestic violence situations since 1996.
Raphael House of Portland's executive director Emmy Ritter is supportive of this move, believing it'll now be an improved resource to get people to safety.
90% of domestic violence survivors suffer from financial abuse, and we don't want survivors to have to choose between homelessness or staying with an abusive partner.
According to a 2023 advisory report from the Secretary of State, over a third of adults in Oregon experience domestic violence in their lives. While Margot Martin with Bradley Angle acknowledges the increase in funds is a good thing, she thinks more can be done, specifically for groups that are disproportionately affected by domestic violence.
Black African American survivors and LGBTQ+ survivors are overrepresented in the pool of folks who have experienced domestic violence and underrepresented when it comes to resources available that are culturally specific and they're there just for them.
While the Department of Human Services says there's currently no specific funds for those groups,
we have our teams ready with culturally appropriate resources, whether it be language services or what have you.
Survivors who do receive help will be paid out over the course of 90 days to help them in a critical time.
And so it could be rent, it could be utilities, it could be replacing items that are left behind if somebody has to leave an unsafe environment. It can be for security equipment or even a post office box.
Now, this increase is only temporary and is set to return to the original amount on June 30th, 2025. To see if you're eligible for the Domestic Violence Survivors Program, you can go to the Department of Human Services website or give them a call or go to their office. That website is at the bottom of your screen. Tim, back to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Celine. And there are resources available now to get survivors connected to people who can help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 800-799-7233. You can also text 88788. And for emergencies, of course, call 911. Well, the KGW School Supply Drive is going on right now, and today we want to thank On Point Community Credit Union for donating $25,000.
We were founded by 16 school teachers in 1932, so education is in our blood, and we know what it means to start school with the supplies you need. And so, yeah, we want our members, the community, to help us out, help students start school with the supplies they need this year.
Well, that is inspiring, and there is still time to donate. You can bring school supplies to tomorrow's Timbers game if you want. We'll be at Gate F before kickoff, there to help you give. And thanks again to On Point Community Credit Union and also Safeway and Rick's Custom Fencing for everything that you're doing to help make this year's supply drive a big success. And thank you to all of you as well. Well, coming up, the race is on from Mount Hood to the Oregon coast. But a little damp and chilly weather, an early wake-up call or no match for these runners, that's for sure. And later, the local IndyCar drivers who will be tearing up the track this weekend at Portland International Raceway. And up next at 6:30, Pat Doris sits down with one of Oregon's federal prosecutors. The topic, a recent takedown of not one, but two, not two, but three drug trafficking rings funneling things like fentanyl into the Northwest. That's ahead at 6:30 on The Story, only here on KGW.